This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet. The next update for your wallet is here. Upgrade your wallet by downgrading its size. Get 10% off store-wide with offer code SKILLUP. Click the link below or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Hello and welcome to my hands-on preview for God of War Ragnarok. I've played the first 5 hours or so and I'm here to tell you that they absolutely fucking ruled. But before I do that, let's do some admin. Firstly, Sony did not permit any capture for this preview window, meaning that everything you'll see in this video is pulled from trailers or showcases, as well as a handful of new screenshots that they dropped for this preview window, plus some God of War 2018 gameplay. So if you're worried you're going to see something here that you don't want to see, don't worry, you won't. Secondly, on the topic of spoilers, there's kind of 3 categories of people when it comes to spoilers, I find. There's the tier 1 category of people, and I'll be like, Kratos is cranky in this game. And then people are like, bruh, that's such a spoiler, you ruined it, unsubscribe, reported. If you're one of those people, then don't watch anything. Obviously, a preview window about a video game was going to talk about that video game and disclose at least a few details. So if you're one of those people, thank you for stopping by, but I suggest you click off the video. Then there's the tier 2 people. These people recognize that a preview video is going to talk about some stuff, but you don't want any major stuff spoiled. Don't worry, this video is for you. I'm going to share some details, but I'm going to remain very circumspect on a bunch of stuff and actively avoid a whole bunch of other stuff. I promise you, I will not rob you of any of the reveals or enjoyment that I have experienced myself. The tier 3 people, by the way, are the ones that are like, I don't give a fuck, I'm not going to buy this anyway, I'm just going to watch the cutscenes on YouTube. Good luck to you, but this video isn't for you either because I'm not going to give you any juicy spoilers. So, with all that out the way, let me start by saying, this is looking very, very good. In the lead up to God of War Ragnarok, I think I was preoccupied with the question, can they top it? Can they somehow find a way to top what they did in 2018? 5 hours in, I'm thinking far less about that question now because I've just so loved this first 5 hours that I'm just celebrating the quality of what's before me rather than speculating about how it might end up being compared to its predecessor. This looks incredible, it runs flawlessly, its spectacle has never been more spectacular, the combat sandbox is subtly but noticeably improved, and the emotion in every scene is just as powerfully portrayed through the actors' convincing performances and Santa Monica's industry-leading animation. In an era where so many of the big budget games we consume are riddled with bugs and bullshit and compromise, my biggest takeaway from 5 hours with Ragnarok wasn't, is this better or worse than 2018, it was just, goddamn, this is a great fucking video game, and so I'm very keen to see where all this goes next. The adventure begins roughly 3 years after the end of the first game, where Kratos and Atreus learned about the prophecy of Ragnarok, and Atreus learns his true name and lineage. There is an in-game recap you can view that briefly summarizes the events of the first game, but it is very brief, and if you're someone thinking about picking up Ragnarok without having played the first game, I'd really, really strongly recommend against that. It would be possible to skip it, but you'd be denying yourself one of the best games ever made, one of the best stories delivered in a game, and you'd also be denying yourself the evolution of the relationship between Kratos and his son. That is a relationship centered on Kratos' emotional distance and Atreus' vulnerability on the battlefield, and it's striking to see 3 years later how that's changed. There's a moment in the opening where Kratos is watching Atreus tend to something, and Kratos kind of pauses, and you can see this very brief look of pride on his face. Kratos has been training Atreus every day for 3 years, and that training is paying dividends that Kratos is proud of. That little moment right there, it's such a tiny thing, but it's also so powerful if you have all the context that the first game gives you. There are other moments like that, moments so enhanced by a deep knowledge of these characters, and so that's why I do think that the first game is required reading for anyone hoping to get the most out of the second. Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir are still in the same home that we saw in the first game, preparing for a fight that they know will one day come, since you can't piss off as many gods as Kratos did without the bill coming due at some point. An inciting event makes clear that the time for that fight has come, but to fully face it, Kratos and Atreus need the help of one of the Norse gods, cast down from his position in Odin's pantheon and now imprisoned. Word is he's on a realm known as Svartfellheim. I'm sure I've got that pronunciation wrong, but anyway, home of the dwarves and the mines, and so with the help of a bit of fancy teleportation magic, we're on our way. The Kratos homestead, blanketed in snow as we remember it, really doesn't showcase any sort of visual uplift here in the sequel, but it becomes far more evident when you reach Svartalfheim. It's a waterlogged region with gaseous rock formations and geysers gushing 20 feet in the air. Just in terms of terrain detail and geography, it already looks better than any region in 2018. But you'll soon arrive at the Dwarven City, and that's when things start to get really crazy in terms of visual fidelity. Just an absolutely jaw-dropping location that I wish I could show you, but I can't. It does look amazing, and through a mix of close-up detail and clever skybox usage, it's a truly beautiful space to move through. It does look like a step up from 2018. But it's not a massive step up, by the way, and I expect you're going to see lots of comparison screenshots proving that God of War looks shit because it doesn't look different enough versus 2018. Nothing's going to stop that because that's just how Twitter works, sadly. But you're going to tell me that this looks shit? Or this? Really? Come on now. 5 hours in, this is easily one of the best looking games I've played. I have no problem telling you that. And it runs at up to 120 FPS at a time when certain new release AAA games cannot maintain a solid 30. On PS5, Ragnarok offers a fidelity mode for 4K 30 FPS and a performance mode with dynamic resolution locking in 60 FPS. But wait, there's more. If your TV supports HDMI 2.1, then Ragnarok also offers a high frame rate resolution mode which does 4K at 40 FPS or a dynamic resolution up to 120 FPS. So, not only are you getting a game that looks this good, but you are getting it at frame rates typically reserved for games that look significantly worse. That's what I'm talking about when I say you just have to sit back and celebrate this thing. At a time when we're all begging for 60 FPS, Sony Santa Monica are like, best I can do is 120. And this frame rate has done so much to make combat feel better this time around. Right now, I'm still early in the combat sandbox, which is to say that I'm still using a lot of abilities brought back from the previous game, and the overall feel of the three combat styles, axe, blades, and fist, is largely unchanged. You can throw the axe, air juggle, freeze targets, etc. You can swing those chains around for AoE attacks, set stuff on fire, and you can beat the ever-living shit out of dudes with your fists for quick stun-based executions. It's all familiar, but running at 60 FPS or more, it just feels so good. I mean, the strength of God of War's combat is that it sits between the slower combat of, say, a Souls-like, and the faster combat of a character action game. God of War's combat is paced very evenly, giving you time between each swing to plan your next swing, and the air juggles have a lot of air time and its parry windows are extremely generous, making it very easy to play aggressively. With these extra frames, combat becomes easier to pass. It's easier to react to threats, and each action you take feels more deliberate, both because you're able to make more informed decisions, but also because each animation looks so much nicer running at that higher frame rate. I did encounter some new enemies, by the way, like these dudes who like to perch themselves up on things while spitting balls of poison at you. They're pretty fun. There are also these dudes who are kind of a mini-boss almost, and they have a ton of HP, and they periodically bend over so that they can pump out a few of these bad boys, these annoying lizard things. I fucking hate these guys, by the way. They're not a very fun enemy to fight, to be honest, constantly zipping out of your melee range, but luckily, Atreus does make short work of them with his arrows. Speaking of Atreus, he's very useful in combat right from the get-go. You still command him to shoot arrows with the square button, and they do a moderate amount of damage, but a huge amount of stun damage, and if you follow up with a few unarmed attacks, you will very quickly be able to KO almost any enemy. A very strong father-son combo right there. The other thing I noticed about combat is that it's more vertical this time. Numerous combat arenas are multi-level, allowing you to quickly go up by using the blades as a grapple. This opens up combat a lot, since those spitter enemies, for example, can just chill up the top, forcing you to come to them, or I can knock enemies off ledges before following up with a drop-down attack that does a huge amount of damage. So already what I've seen of combat is familiar but enhanced by this new frame rate, some new enemy types, some verticality, and some deeper customization options for weapons, armor, and abilities that I won't talk about yet because I haven't actually unlocked them, but they do give me a lot of hope that combat will find its own identity here, separate from the first game. I think it's already doing that, by the way, but I'm interested to see how much further Santa Monica can take things. Svartfellheim is actually 4 areas, one of which is a large semi-open world lake area reminiscent of the first game. Numerous docks present opportunity to hop off and explore. Doing so is always so rewarding because I'd find new side quests or combat challenges or little lore pieces that were so interesting and well written. I scoured every inch of this space and did as much as I could, but when I left the realm, it said my completion was only like 50% or something, and I could see that many parts were inaccessible to me owing to the fact that I was missing things that would be awarded later in the game, like Metroidvania-esque. I spent a good couple of hours on this lake and enjoyed every second of it because it really was a great combination of puzzles, progression, story, and genuine exploration in a really stunning location. So everything that I experienced in this 5 hours was superb, but there were two things that really stood out for me. Number one, I couldn't get over how intimate and emotional this was right from the get-go. That one-shot take thing that God of War does, where the camera follows the events without ever cutting or changing perspective, that is so powerful because it's like we are in every scene along with them. We are this silent observer watching events unfold in real time, and we're so close to them that we can see minor changes in facial expressions that communicate more than words ever could. I can't think of another game that's used this camera technique, and so coming back to it after 4 years, you're reminded of its power. And all of that would be nothing without this writing, these characters, these performances, and the way that Sony's artists and animators bring it all to life. These games sit at the absolute cutting edge of technology, cinematography, and storytelling, literally pushing the video games medium forward. Ragnarok seems to be continuing in that tradition here, and I felt no less emotional power coming from any part of it. The other thing that really stood out for me was the rendition of the gods. Now, I won't spoil any of this, but suffice it to say, you do meet some of the Norse gods in that opening 5 hours, and they are nothing like the versions popularized by the MCU or any other notion you might have of them. They are so different, and I know a lot of people won't like that because they want Chris Hemsworth and Anthony Hopkins and Korg. Okay, to be fair, we all want Korg, but the truth is, the Norse gods weren't Adonis-like pillars of virtues. They were generally assholes, and they spent most of their time doing terrible things to one another in a never-ending series of sagas that served not as instructive moral fables on how to live a good life, but as a reminder of the grim realities of life and how the powerful abuse their power for their own gain only. That is a cool angle to lead with when it comes to portraying your Norse gods, because it is A, more in keeping with the source material, and B, it creates a very, very clear line break between this and the work of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Kevin Feige. There is a vision here for these characters that subverts expectations, and that isn't always a bad phrase, despite what you may think about The Last Jedi. It's cool to see creatives try different shit with the things that we know and love. That's how we got Sad Dad Kratos in the first place, and I'm pretty sure most of us will agree that that was a pretty inspired pivot. And that is the thing that I'm most pumped about above all. Sony Santa Monica are delivering Ragnarok, the final war between the gods, the end of all times, and they are delivering it their way. And I have absolutely loved what I've seen so far, and I'm desperate to get back into it so I can see how this saga ends. I'm gonna go and do just that. Don't forget the review goes live November 3rd, 9 AM PT. Set your calendars, or just hit the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and you'll get a notification as soon as that review is up. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in Ragnarok. As I mentioned earlier, we're a few months deep into the Ridge Wallet partnership here on the channel, and it's been awesome to hear from people very satisfied with their wallet glow-ups. It's unsurprising since Ridge Wallet put out a great product. I was using Ridge Wallet well before they sponsored the channel. I saw it somewhere on YouTube since they're very big into the whole influencer marketing thing. I had one for almost 2 years, I think, before Ridge sent me a brand new one called North Shore. I really like this design. But if you don't like it, that's okay, because there are tons more colors to choose from matte black to navy to red to neon tiki? That's new. They also come in a variety of materials from aluminium, or aluminum as Americans call it, to carbon fiber to straight up titanium. Is this the same stuff they use on rockets? I don't know, but it sounds cool, and it certainly won't ever bend when you sit on it. Ridge wallets can hold all of your cards, well, within reason, and they have different options for the back, including both a money clip and an elastic money strap. I prefer the strap personally. It's just an extremely comfortable and durable means of keeping your cards and cash safe. Those bulky leather wallets, I can't imagine ever going back to one of those now. These just sit so much more comfortably on the body, you notice it less, and they just look cooler. Ridge wallets are not only a great wallet upgrade for you, but they also make for perfect gifts, since a lot of people don't know that there's a new, better type of wallet out there. So upgrade your own wallet or someone else's by visiting ridge.com/skillup and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout. That code will net you a 10% off your order site-wide, so be sure to check out Ridge's other stuff while you're there, including their newly launched key case. That's offer code SKILLUP at ridge.com/skillup. Thanks Ridge for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.